According to unofficial information, up to 300,000 people in the Polish capital protested against the European Green Deal. The Green Deal is a threat to Poland, to all of Europe. We will descend to Africa, and that's all there will be. I am against the Green Deal because we will all pay for it. Exactly how will we pay and in what form can it appear? In everything from our housing to our cars to high energy prices. Will we all pay? All of us. It will affect every Pole. We will have to pay almost 32,000 zloty more per year. All protesters are aware that the Green Deal equals increases. The farmers showed us that this is something that can affect all of us, because if the farmer has to pay more, we will end up having to pay more for the food we eat. Yes, and we will all pay for energy prices too. Exactly the same. After all, ECTS is about 60% of the price of electricity, so if those 60% were removed, energy would be cheaper nationwide. What will this lead to, or even already leads to? The liquidation of industry in Poland. In general, the reduction of various industrial companies that will move out of Europe to China, for example, and we will still have to import various materials from there, because here, if we are to introduce zero emissions, what sense does it make? This is digging our own grave, so to speak. The strike is also a fight for the sovereignty of our country. They have to give us a Green Deal just to make us fall to the level of the Polish worker of the early 1990s. Then we were good. One direction, Germany and asparagus. No, this is over, and it will not come back. Forcing us to invest in heat exchange, cars. Exactly, before gas was good. Now gas is suddenly bad. What is the point of this? Because you have to buy something, maybe from Germany. For example, windmills from a German company. Siemens Energy, a company that was in poor condition. What did the windmill controversy come from? It is known that there was a beneficiary to push through some legislative changes. So these are foreign interests. You need to act. You need to oppose. You need to be aware. And you have to be aware that the EU regulations that the current government agrees to will lead the European Union to a model of a superstate, in which countries like Poland will be marginalized. I'm afraid that we're going to lose Poland's sovereignty. What's happening now in the European Union is very disturbing, and it's going to affect Poland. We just want to live normally. We are Poles, and we want to defend our order, our homeland. The farmers are defending their farms and Poland's food security. We happen to have meat cattle, to which we are subsidizing as of today. Even now, we have a drought that is quite serious as of today. And what will happen next? We don't know, and prices are very low. Is the Green Deal truly a nail in the coffin then? What we need to realize is that the whole Green Deal affects normal citizens more than it affects the farmers. Until people realize that it affects them more than the farmer, then it will be as it is. And this Green Deal will stay. It's bad, and it's going to get worse, because starting in July, there will be another gigantic energy hike that will affect everyone in Poland, including farmers, and will consequently increase the price of virtually everything. But the Poles are unlikely to count on effective help from Donald Tusk's government. As farmers, we block the border. There is a need to do order, and so far no one has done order with the influx of this bad quality food from Ukraine, which is flooding us, which is flooding our stores. And here all the time farmers are protesting, and our government is deaf to it. Our government does not see it, does not see the protests. Last time we were here on March 6th at this protest, what was done to us? Police squads were brought out. We must all be here. We must unite. We must fight, because these are the last moments to do something. Gazeta Polska clubs from all over the country also protested. Now we simply see that this is heading in such a direction that it will affect all of us. So we just try to do our own thing. Once again, hundreds of thousands of Poles took to the streets of Warsaw. This voice of protest, down with the Green Deal, will surely be heard by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and the Eurocrats, who, without looking at anything, are introducing regulations that will lead to an overpricing for which we will all pay. But this force and this energy cannot be ignored. Adrian Borecki, TV Republika. The price of the European Union's ecological transformation will be economic poverty for many Europeans who will not be able to bear its costs. Farmers, miners, and transport workers, among others, will be negatively affected by the ongoing changes. Farms could go bankrupt within 3 years. There will then be a massive sell-off of assets, benefiting the wealthiest people. I, for one, think that the idea here is to help those owners who own huge farms in Ukraine. Owners from Ukraine? Certainly not Ukrainian farmers. On a world scale in Europe, this means absolutely nothing, but will put the entire Polish nation into poverty, in particular those who work in industry, because nothing new is being created for these places, these workplaces that have already collapsed. The European Commission is responsible for developing the European Green Deal. In Brussels, it adopted a CO2 emissions reduction target of 55% by 2030. From Poland, representatives of the Civic Platform, PSL, and the left voted in favor of the package. So we have to stay the course we have set. And on this, I fully agree with my friend, Donald Tusk. It was the Civic Coalition that went into the parliamentary elections with a program of 100 specific promises for the first 100 days of their government in power. In one of them, we read: "We will present a detailed energy transition plan to reduce CO2 emissions by 75% by 2030. Therefore, the Civic Coalition is calling for stricter regulations, which even in their current form spark violent public resistance. The farmers' protests were already sweeping across Europe in December. The situation escalated in the wake of Brussels' decision to introduce Green Deal regulations. Nevertheless, Donald Tusk is trying to disclaim responsibility for the specific promises placed in his own election program. Mr. Morawiecki, Mr. Kaczyński, Mr. Wojciechowski, the entire Law and Justice Party, the whole absolutely full of ignorance and complete lack of knowledge about Polish agriculture, bunch of ignorant people. One of the 7 demands of Law and Justice in the European Parliament elections is to abolish the Green Deal. What Donald Tusk is doing at the moment is simply following the old method, like a fleeing thief that shouts, "Catch the thief." Eurocrats are convinced that the only way to fight the climate is to restrict civil liberties. It is the human factor that is allegedly responsible for the progressive global warming. Many scientists, specialists, and experts are signing letters and declarations opposing the widely lobbied thesis. Professor Leszek Marks, a retired geologist at the Polish Academy of Sciences and the National Geological Institute, also discusses this. On a global scale, human influence is minimal, if we can even talk about it at all, while on a local or regional scale, this influence is quite significant. My impression is that the Green Deal will exacerbate social stratification and will not lead to a better climate for all, for the reason that the poorest people may simply not be able to withstand these restrictions. Today's huge protest in Warsaw is a signal to citizens across Europe that the Green Deal can be stopped. Our editorial staff accompanied the protesters throughout the day.
Bo ten obrazek dzisiaj.
These photos from today, a month before the European Parliament elections, will be shown across Europe, despite the fact that the leftist censors tend to cut them out. We partner and cooperate with the Associated Press. Many stations take photos and different materials from us, but I think they also realize what is happening themselves. This cannot be hidden. Data released by the European Commission shows that China and the United States are responsible for more than 40% of global CO2 emissions. If the activity to reduce CO2 emissions is not balanced internationally, the European economy will fall far behind the competition. Ukraine destroyed all 10 drones as Russia launched an overnight attack. But 2 people were injured, and residential buildings in the Kharkiv region were consumed by fire as a result of the attack, Ukrainian officials said on Friday, May 10th. The Air Force said in a statement on the Telegram messaging app that Russia also launched 2 anti-aircraft guided missiles. Ole Sinyahubov, governor of the Kharkiv region, said 3 residential houses were set on fire, and about dozens were damaged as a result of the Russian attack, which he said targeted both infrastructure and residential areas. 2 people, including an 11-year-old child, were shell-shocked and were receiving medical help, Sinyahubov said on the Telegram messaging app. Moscow denies targeting civilians in what it said are legitimate strikes on Ukraine's military, energy, and transport infrastructure. A South Korean company that broke a Guinness World Record earlier this month showcased thousands of its drones, flying in formation at a performance in Incheon on Thursday, May 9th. Carrying out a near repeat of its record-breaking feat on May 1st, UVify, which specializes in drone light shows, used 4,500 drones to put on a dazzling performance at the World Drone Light Show on Thursday evening, along with 1,100 firework drones from Pablo Air, another South Korean company. Hundreds of spectators gathered to watch Thursday's performance, which was open to the public for the first time. UVify had set a new Guinness World Record for the most unmanned aerial vehicles airborne simultaneously on May 1st, using 5,293 drones at an event, surpassing the previous record of 5,164 drones set by a Chinese company in 2021, according to South Korea's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport. The Drone Light Show on Thursday was part of the opening of Korea Drone Expo, which will run until Saturday, May 11th.